wait. We're going to wait just a minute to see if more people join, and then we'll get started.
Sorry, when
That's
you
okay.
started talking, I thought that was
I didn't tell you I was going to say that, so it's fine.
Do you want me to pause the recording?
Yeah, go ahead. So welcome everyone. This is the Philosophy Fall Welcome panel. My name is Rachel Hale, and I'm one of the academic advisors for philosophy for the undergraduate area. We're going to introduce ourselves, and then after that, the panelists will answer questions that we have that are from the survey that you took. And then after that, we'll see if there's any questions in the chat if we still have time left. So, like I said, my name's Rachel. And then Jillian, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Jillian Hancock. I'm another one of the undergraduate advisors for the Yellow Cluster, including the philosophy major.
Alyssa?
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa McGorian. I'm one of the advisors in the Yellow Cluster.
Stacie?
Hi, I'm Stacie Jenkins. I am also an advisor for your philosophy major.
Professor Gilmore?
Hi, I'm Cody Gilmore. I'm professor of philosophy, and I'm just starting as chair of the philosophy department. I've been at UC Davis since 2006, and my research specialty is metaphysics and ontology, especially where that intersects with other fields like philosophy of mind, philosophy of language, ethics, philosophy of physics.
All right, and then the student panelists, go ahead and say your name and then what you're studying, your area of study, and then what originally attracted you to your area of study. So Nicholas, you can go first.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm a fourth year philosophy and political science double major. I would say my areas of interest mostly are metaphysics and philosophy of mind. And I'd say I was drawn to it just through several early classes I had. I remember I took metaphysics as a freshman and just got like really invested in that. So that was sort of just by taking classes at the UC Davis philosophy department.
Mara.
Hi everyone, my name is Mara. I'm also a fourth year philosophy major. Still haven't figured out my emphasis, whether I'm general or pre-law, but I'm probably gonna have to figure out before I graduate. Also, I'm a Latin minor and I'm a peer advisor in the Yellow Cluster, one of the new peers. And I guess what initially attracted me to philosophy is I first started out wanting to go to law school, and so philosophy is a really great major to help you prepare for that. And even though I changed my mind about, pursuing law, I still stuck in the major because I feel like a lot of the skills I'm gaining from it would be really useful to like any career I want to go into.
All right, well, we're going to dive into the questions, and either the panelists or Professor Gilmore, you can answer them. So what are the different options and emphases within the philosophy major? How should I choose between options, especially if I'm interested in more than one? And advisors can chime in on this too.
I'll get started with this one. So there are three tracks in the philosophy major. There's the general emphasis, which I believe is the original one. It has some distribution requirements. The second track is the pre-law emphasis, and its requirements are geared to emphasize certain issues like epistemology, which is theory of knowledge, and ethics, areas in philosophy that are especially relevant to law school and the study of law. And there's a pre-med emphasis also, and that has different requirements, such as bioethics, requirements that are more relevant to the study of medicine.
Thank you. What can I do with a philosophy degree after I graduate? Which is the question that everyone asks.
Well, sorry. if it's okay, can I back up a little bit and say a little bit more about that first question? So there's one question you asked that I didn't answer.
Okay.
How should I choose between the options, especially if I'm interested in more than one? Well, if you're sure you want to go to law school, philosophy is a great major, and the pre-law emphasis is clearly the way to go. Likewise for people who are pre-med. If you're interested in more than one, the general emphasis works well. It's more flexible than the others. So that's what I would recommend. But don't feel like if you want to go to law school, you have to do the pre-law emphasis. You don't. Likewise for going to med school. It's just that with one of those emphases, you get a little more material that's relevant to your career, but it's not as if people who go to law school must take the pre-law emphasis. Far from it. As to what to do after you get a philosophy degree, I mean, the options are endless. Recently, there's been a lot of reporting about philosophy and about how people who major in philosophy do surprisingly well in terms of their mid-career salaries. So I've seen analyses and statistics that indicate that philosophy majors tend to earn more mid-career than business majors, for example. So that doesn't tell you what you should do. It doesn't tell you what careers are open to you, but it just tells you that philosophy majors have been doing extremely well professionally. You know, you can go into the civil service, you can be a foreign service worker, you can work for the State Department, you can work for the FBI, you can go into the private sector in any capacity. So I'm sure the other panelists will have more suggestions about this. But there's just, there are so many options, there are too many to count. Law and medicine are two popular career paths after studying philosophy, but there are so many others.
Does anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I'm happy to chime in, but I was kind of wondering what the student panelists were looking forward to entering into the workforce.
Well, for myself personally, it's sort of a toss-up between like two different plans that I'm sort of navigating between, one of which being going to grad school and wanting to do work in some kind of work in like logic and philosophy of science, something related to that. And then the other side of that would be just working in sort of the like public policy nonprofit sector in some capacity after graduating.
I think like for me, since I'm still in that like career exploration phase, like lately I've been really interested in going into education, possibly becoming a teacher. So, you know, again, it might not be like the first thing that comes to mind when someone says they're a philosophy major, oh, you want to be a teacher. But again, it just goes to show how really broad this major is and how it can be applicable to so many fields.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, Stacie, you wanted to say something.
I'll pitch in a little bit. And so everybody is making a good point that philosophy is an area that can lead to a lot of different doors professionally. And when you combine your academic experience in philosophy with the other experiences that you have in your life or will have in the next few years, together, that's what's shaping your decisions about careers and what you might want to pursue. So let's say you're a philosophy major, you're interested in a certain set of classes, and you have this internship for a government office that is really exciting to you, and that's why you pursue that particular area. Or that's just one example, but really, because philosophy touches everything, it's not a limiting major. But keep in mind that if you're trying to break into a field that has a technical aspect to it, like teaching, for instance, would require a credential, or if you're going into a science, then you would probably need to include some STEM coursework into your degree plan. And so you can really make some academic and out of classroom choices that really build up your toolbox to help you go into various fields. But it's limitless, basically. You're adding to your experiences to get what you want.
If you don't mind,
Rachel, you're muted.
I'm just talking away. Thank you. Okay, so
can
yes.
I add one more little tidbit? When I start my intro to philosophy courses, in the first lecture, I like to put up data about how well philosophy majors do in terms of mid-career income. I don't have that graphic to display right now, but it's something I like to brag about for philosophy. Here's another little interesting factoid. There's this really cool artificial intelligence corporation based in Austin, Texas, called PsyCorp. They have a unique approach to artificial intelligence, and they hire people for a job position that they call ontological engineer. And the job consists in formalizing common sense beliefs about how the world works in terms of a formal logical language. And that's the formal logical language. It's called first order logic that you learn in Philosophy 112. A lot of people who work for PsyCorp have philosophy degrees. So that's just one example of a million of the kind of career that philosophy majors are well suited to. Ontological engineer working for PsyCorp in Austin, Texas.
All right, that sounds cool. Okay, so next question. I'm actually going to answer it because it's an advising question. So can students majoring in philosophy double major or minor in something else? And the answer is absolutely yes. Philosophy is a pretty small major units wise, so you definitely have room to either double major or do a minor or do a double minor if you want to do that. So yes, you'll have plenty of space to add something else in that you're interested in. Does anybody want to say anything else about that? Okay. All right, so the next question is, how do I find research opportunities in philosophy?
I don't want to monopolize the session, but I suppose I'm qualified to answer it.
You're the expert on this.
The best way is to take courses from philosophy faculty to find out which particular subjects you're most interested in, to get to know the faculty members who are teaching those courses, go to their office hours, talk to them about their research, and ask them. So the way into research opportunities in philosophy is through individual faculty members. There's no one-size-fits-all plan. It's just a matter of getting to know the professors and letting them steer you toward appropriate research that would fit your level of preparation.
Okay, thank you.
But if others have thoughts that they want to share, that would be good too.
I don't know if this counts as a research opportunity, but I know every year, I believe the philosophy club on campus in collaboration with the department tries to do an undergraduate philosophy conference on campus that allows a lot of students to sort of maybe flesh out some ideas or work that they've been working on, and then get a chance to present it to other students and philosophy professors to sort of get some feedback from that. So that's also pretty handy.
I have a follow-up question for Cody. Can you talk about what philosophy research actually looks like, since it's not in the traditional sense in a lab?
Sure. Yeah, philosophers don't have labs the way chemists do, but we're scholars, and we write papers. So all the philosophy faculty at UC Davis, all of the professors that you'll have are active in research, and we write books and articles that appear in scholarly journals, and sometimes articles that appear in more popular venues and websites, sometimes on ethical questions. But the kind of scholarship that gets done here would include ethical questions about the morality of, say, certain gene editing processes, gene editing technology. So some kind of advanced biotechnology that's used to correct diseases or prevent fertilized embryos with certain genetic diseases from arising. What's the morality of investing in that technology? Is that curing a disease, or is that just bringing a new non-diseased person into existence? Explaining that distinction, analyzing analyzing the ethical ramifications of that distinction, arguing for the morality of public investment in a certain technology. That's just one example of the kind of research that gets done here by some of our faculty.
All right, thank you very much. The next question is, how can I get involved with clubs, especially with classes being remote for at least part of the year?
I haven't been too involved with the undergraduate philosophy club. I don't know if either of the panelists have. But I'm assuming that the club will meet virtually this year, and that they'll probably send out a mass email to all the undergraduate majors at least. So I'm hoping they'll be meeting virtually. I don't have any detail on any plans.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I haven't met up with anyone from the philosophy club as of late to sort of talk about how we're planning on transitioning it to Zoom. But additionally, there is UC Davis Philosophy Club Facebook page that people can find and and that will probably also have a bunch of updates on it over the course of the upcoming quarter. So that, I would say follow that if you want to stay updated on joining the Philosophy Club.
Thanks.
Clubs are a really good way to get to know people and get involved with campus. So yeah, if you can join some clubs, that would be a great idea to get involved. The next question is, how can I get help with my classes if I don't live in the Davis area?
If it's the kind of help that you can get from a TA or a faculty member, one of your instructors, you would want to get in touch with them and email them to ask whether you could have some kind of office hours equivalent meeting. That's what I would recommend. Living in Davis is going to be less important in fall quarter than it would be in other quarters, since all the interactions are happening via Zoom. So I guess if you're going to live outside of Davis, this is the quarter to do it.
All right, and that leads into the next question, which is, how can I get to know my faculty, especially with my classes being online in the fall?
Again, make yourself known to them, email them, try to schedule a one-on-one meeting over Zoom if you can. But you know, they know that this is a really hard time for students, and we're all willing to make an extra effort to try to make up for the hard circumstances, you know, to whatever small degree that we can. We're going to try to be extra available, extra flexible, and really, you know, responsive to student emails. So everybody, all of your instructors know that this is a really hard time. It's hard for us as well as for you. So just reach out, send an email, get in touch with them through Zoom if you can, and they'll be happy to hear from you.
Okay, they also want to know, will lectures be recorded?
I can't say for sure that all lectures will be, but if anybody else knows, I actually don't know whether it's a university-wide policy. I mean, there might, for all I know, there might be some university-wide policy that all lectures must be recorded. I don't know, but I think that in philosophy, the vast majority of the lectures will be recorded. But you'll have to be in touch with the faculty about that, the instructor for each course. Look at the syllabus. The syllabus will usually contain the answer to that question.
You can also check the course details, and if it says it's asynchronous, it will definitely have some recordings available, but even classes that are synchronous might also have recordings. As Cody said, it's instructor's discretion.
All right, do you have any tips for new students? Analysts? Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so definitely, like, biggest tip, go to office hours, just to kind of circle back to the previous question about like how to, you know, ask for help if you're not living in Davis. A lot of professors now are having their office hours through Zoom, so definitely go. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that I am an office hour junkie. I go as much as I can if I'm ever like struggling with a class, and in the past I've had really great experiences.
Looks like Mara is frozen.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out if it was me or Mara, but it looks like it's her.
Yeah.
Nicholas, do you have any questions or any tips for new students?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, well, first things first, do the reading. Philosophy is one of those classes where, you know, you might think you could get by without doing the reading, but I mean, I heavily encourage that you do, obviously, because it's like the reason why you're taking the class, but also that it's very important for a lot of classes to actually like understand the ideas. It's not something that you can read just like a paragraph on Wikipedia about. You should, just do the readings for your classes so that way you have a good enough grasp on the material. And then the second thing that I was going to say was, don't be afraid to chime up in class, ask questions, give like a comment or an opinion on something. Just because a lot of the philosophy professors that I've seen are very, very friendly. They're super open to discussion, and they're like happy to like answer any questions. So just don't feel afraid to like chime up and ask questions during class.
Okay.
Yeah, that's excellent advice from both of our panelists there. For sure, your philosophy instructors are not going to be scary. They're going to be, especially now, really happy to talk to you and, willing to go out of their way to make your course experience as good as it can be. This is a bad time, but we'll definitely try to make it less bad by being more available.
All right. So I actually skipped a couple of pretty long questions and decided to come back to them if we had time. So we definitely do have time.
Hey, Rach, sorry. Yeah. There is a question in the chat since we have a little bit of time, and it's definitely something that Professor Gilmore probably should answer.
Okay. Let me take
the question is, oh, sure. It's from Matthew, and it says, is the philosophy department more focused on continental philosophy or analytic philosophy?
Great question. So, sorry, I'm not super skilled with the Zoom yet, so forgive me as I bumble around here. So for those of you who haven't heard that terminology before, there's this distinction, continental philosophy versus analytic philosophy. And it's kind of two schools or two approaches to doing philosophy. Continental philosophy, it's called continental because it's associated with the continent of Europe. There are other continents, but continental philosophy is associated with like French and German philosophy. And its emphasis is more on culture, history, literature. Analytic philosophy is more associated with philosophy in the English-speaking world, Great Britain, Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand. Analytic philosophy tends to be less focused on history, culture, and literature, and more focused on science, mathematics, logic, more of an emphasis on really clear, precise, rigorous argumentation. So that's like a very superficial sketch of the two approaches to philosophy. If you've never heard those terms before, there's a lot more that could be said. The question is, which one do we focus on in the UC Davis philosophy department? Definitely analytic philosophy. We don't have anyone in our department who would consider themselves to be a continental philosopher. We do teach a course in continental philosophy, at least one, a couple, depending on how you categorize things. So we have a course called, I believe it's called Contemporary European Philosophy. Someone can correct me if I'm giving the wrong name. That continental philosophy can be studied here. It's just that that's not what we emphasize. We emphasize the analytic approach to philosophy. And in terms of our research, we all do our research in the analytic style. Clarity, precision, argumentative rigor, that's what we're all aspiring to.
Alrighty. I'm going to take one of the questions that I had skipped. How and when can I declare an emphasis? And are philosophy emphases different branches of the major, Or would it still just be philosophy and you would take certain courses in order to be considered pre-law? So you don't, well, okay. So the 3 different emphases, you do take different classes for them. We can tell, honestly, by what classes you're taking, what emphasis you're doing. You don't have to officially declare it. We know when you're doing pre-law by the classes that you're taking. But yeah, they're all 3 of them are philosophy. It's just that you take different classes for each. Did I answer that good enough?
I would also add that there's really no action that you need to take until you're getting ready to graduate. And if we, like Rachel said, we can normally tell. If we can't tell, or if it's at all ambiguous, we'll ask you. Mm-hmm. Your actual diploma, your paper diploma, will not say the individual emphasis. It will say Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, but your official transcript after graduation will include the emphasis, and that's what we want to get right. And so we'll have that figured out upon graduation.
Okay, are there other good questions in the chat, Alyssa?
Yes, let's see. The next question is, when you're doing the pre-med track, do we need to take all medicine-oriented classes, or does it not matter?
So the pre-med track is philosophy classes that are related to medicine and ethics. You will still need to take all the med school prereqs in addition to doing the pre-med major for philosophy. Do you want to say anything about that, Professor Gilmore?
Sure. I'm looking at the list of requirements for the pre-med track right now. So I can just quickly run through the names of the courses that are listed on here. Intro to Symbolic Logic, Bioethics, Intro to the Philosophy of Biology, Intro to Ethics, Intro to Philosophy of Science, Appraising Scientific Reasoning, Understanding Scientific Change. These are not all required, but some choices from among those options. Advanced Logic, Advanced Bioethics, Philosophy of Physical Science, Philosophy of Biology, Rationality, Special Topics in Philosophy of Science. Again, those are the courses that you'll need to choose among. And then there are a bunch of open slots that can be filled in as you please from the upper division course offerings. So there's still quite a bit of flexibility in terms of what philosophy courses you take. It's just that the emphasis is a bit more on medicine-related courses. But I should say that if you want to look at this for yourself, it's up on the philosophy department website. You should be able to find it just by clicking the right buttons.
And in the chat, I have included a link to the science and math requirements for medical school that you would take in addition to your philosophy curriculum.
Okay, any questions that we want to pull out of the chat that you thought were good, Alyssa?
I think that's it.
Okay. So the question that I was saving, it's really long, but which emphasis should I pick if the classes I'm most interested in are in one particular emphasis, but my career goals are more directly related to a different emphasis? They said, I'm interested in going to law school after I graduate from UC Davis, but I'm very interested in studying topics not directly related to law, such as metaphysics and philosophy of mind. Should I pursue a general emphasis in philosophy, which has the classes I'm most passionate about, or should I pursue a pre-law emphasis since I'm ultimately hoping to go to law school?
I can start by offering my thoughts, but I would like to, it would be good to hear from the other panelists too. I don't think there's one right answer here. My advice would be to take the general emphasis and take the classes that you're most excited about. Can't go wrong with that. I shouldn't act like I know everything about it. I never went to law school myself, but law school admissions won't care that much that you've taken an extra philosophy of law class, or you've taken an extra political philosophy class. The edge that a pre-law emphasis will give you over a general emphasis isn't so strong that it's going to make a huge difference. And it's probably not so strong that it would outweigh, a much improved GPA, or just the benefit you will get from being really enthusiastic and excited about what you're studying. That brings with it so many additional benefits that a pre-law emphasis, it's a good thing, but it's not as important as being really committed and enthusiastic about what you're studying. So that would be my 2 cents, but I'd love to hear from the other panelists too.
I think I would just add that the purpose of the pre-law emphasis is to give you a little bit of structure, not to pigeonhole you into only going to law school. So law school, the exam to get into law school and law in general is using logic. That's what really gives you an edge. You can get that through taking the logic related classes in philosophy and just the philosophy classes in general. So the difference between the pre-law emphasis and the general emphasis is really just, it lists out some classes. The pre-law emphasis lists out specific classes you have to take. You can take those following the general emphasis too. So the main difference is, in the general emphasis, you have 36 units of electives that you can take. So you have more free reign in picking your classes. In the pre-law, you have 16 units. So you have a little bit less flexibility. But ultimately, if there are more classes that you want to take that are related to something outside of law, you can do that and just take some of those logic classes and the political philosophy, things like that, that do interest you about law school.
I was muted again. Do either of the panelists want to give their opinions on the question?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit because, I was previously interested in law school when I first, was a freshman. And I can definitely empathize with the concern because when I first, came into the major, I kind of found, I guess, the pre-law emphasis a little bit kind of restrictive because I really wanted more freedom to explore different areas in philosophy. But the best way, I like to think about this is one of the biggest reasons why philosophy is such a major for pre-law, because you're getting a lot of critical thinking, analytical writing skills, and you'll be developing those skills regardless of what area of philosophy you're doing, regardless of if you're doing the pre-law emphasis or general. So I say, if you're interested in pursuing other, fields and taking the general emphasis, go.
Yeah, I basically just would agree with all of that and say that philosophy is one of those subjects that usually when you touch upon one subject, you inevitably end up touching upon a lot of other related subjects in philosophy. So especially early on, don't feel pressured to only take classes that you think are going to be relevant later on or going to be relevant after you graduate, because most likely you'll still get a lot of good value out of any class you take and working towards your philosophy major.
Okay. Mara, we could hear you. So yeah, you were fine. Are there any other questions in the chat that we want to answer?
The last question was any recommended books, but I know that might take us off track a little bit if you have more focused questions.
Your textbooks?
Someone asked a question earlier about Stoicism, and is there a way they can focus their major on that? Cody, do you have any insight?
Yeah. Taking courses in ancient philosophy would be the best starting point. You know, Stoicism is not often the focus of a whole course, but we do have courses in ancient philosophy that will touch on Stoicism, among other things. And they'll give you the context in which Stoicism arose. And there are ethics courses as well that will probably touch on Stoicism. And you can also do, if you find a willing faculty member, you can have a course that's an independent study in which you focus your research on Stoicism. You might even be able to write, say, a senior honors thesis or do some kind of independent honors work on Stoicism. But it's a great, great emphasis. I mean, I'm a fan. So whoever asked that question, keep at it. Stoicism's cool.
There's another question in the chat for Nick. Says, what made you decide to double major in philosophy and political science?
Well, it took me a while.
I think the audio is not working.
Yeah. Well, his picture froze too, so.
Made me decide on those two was that it felt as if they can fit together in a lot of different ways. I mean, philosophy, a big part of it is sort of like teaching you how to think about certain things, how to organize thoughts and ideas, and political science is a lot of that as well. So those two majors I found to fit together really well in that way, and they just also both applied to sort of what I wanted to do after graduating, which is getting involved in some kind of political work, maybe. So that was sort of my reasoning.
All right, does anybody else have questions that they want to put in the chat? We still have a couple minutes. Or if some brave soul wants to unmute themselves and just ask a question, that's fine too.
We don't bite.
We really don't, especially over Zoom. That's impossible.
Did we have the student panelists talk earlier about what it's like to be a philosophy major, like what their experience has been like in the department?
We did not. You two want to talk about that?
Yeah, so basically I would say it's a lot of fun. First off, I find it extremely enjoyable. Just because there's a lot of different professors with a lot of different backgrounds in all these different areas of philosophy. You can find a class just basically talking about almost anything you can think of in relation to philosophy. I would just say, keep an eye on your coursework, because things like reading or essays can sort of pile up in the background without you realizing it, and the next thing you know, there's all of this stuff due at the exact same time. I've had that happen to me a few times. So mostly just explore, find what interests you if you're interested in philosophy, and yeah, have fun.
I can quickly talk before my internet dies again, but I guess one thing I really like about being the major is kind of the sense of community, because it is a smaller major. So as I've taken more upper division classes, I see like similar people like in previous classes. And so that's always kind of been a really cool feeling. Also kind of like adding on to what Nicholas said, definitely watch like workload. In my experience, I find like taking about 2 upper divs in a quarter is pretty manageable, because, you know, a lot of upper div classes are very reading and writing heavy. And so, you know, if you're looking to have a more balanced schedule, that would be my recommendation. But ultimately, when it comes down to like success in classes, it really boils down to, you know, your actual work ethic. So perhaps can handle more than 2 upper divs in a quarter, but I guess my personal recommendation as a student is 2 is a nice amount.
Okay, well, I think we have had all the questions we're going to get. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you to the panelists, Nick and Mara. Thank you, Professor Gilmore. I think this was really nice, and you answered some really good questions for the students. So thank you. And we'll see all of you at some point, either through Zoom or in person, hopefully. So yeah, everybody have a great day.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Mara.
I'm so sorry about my internet. I'm so embarrassed.